I was at a chasana last night, beautiful chasana, and I was in Eid Kedushin. And there's this funny little relationship that happens when you have two Eidim that by definition are not Krovim, and they meet each other for the first time as Eidim, and then you're told to also be there for Eid Yichud. So you have to stand awkwardly outside of the Yichud room getting to know this guy, because there's nothing else to do. You can't move for however many minutes the Masada Kedushin decides. So during those, in this case, 7 minutes that we were standing there, so he asked me what I do, and I told him what I do, and I asked him what he'd do, and he told me he's a Rosh Yeshiva of a yeshiva somewhere else. And it was interesting how quickly the conversation became, what are we doing for our Talmidim Bein Hazmanim? It was just like such a natural place that the conversation went, because of the recognition of the possibilities for tremendous difficulties over Bein Hazmanim and for tremendous accomplishments over Bein Hazmanim. Bein Hazmanim is a pivotal time, and it's the type of time that there's really one simple thing that makes all the difference. Now, I'm not going to just say one simple thing. I'm going to talk for a while, and I'll give you examples and try to pull it apart a little bit. I don't know if I'll fully get to everything in my title today, but we'll see what happens. But there's one nekuda, and this is a lifelong lesson. If you could do this one nekuda, it's a game changer for the rest of your life. And that is that before a new tkufa begins, to take time with yourself thinking about that tkufa that's going to begin. Sounds so simple, and it is shocking how few people do that. This Shabbos, I think some of you may have seen me, I was walking around with the Rav Volba Sefer. I finally decided it was time to learn Rav Volba Sefer Kinyan Das. Even though I know, Shimon, that we're in the middle of HaMitzvahs HaShkulos, we're not giving up on that, B'li Neder. But I had never gone through those. Some of those, the Ma'amorim in Kinyan Das or in other places, or I may have seen them in his Svarim. But it's and it was interesting. In one of the early shmuzin, that he has in the Sefer, he talks about Das. One of the symptoms of a bar Das is someone who considers something before it happens. For all of you, it's pasha to do that before you start shidduchim, right? It's pasha to take time and to think about it. I'm starting to get tkufa now. The truth is that even when it comes to shidduchim, you think about, am I ready for shidduchim? Is it time for shidduchim? Like, you think about that, but I think sometimes what we don't think about before we start shidduchim is, how am I going to handle that tkufa called shidduchim? Dating, staying connected to yeshiva, being able to do my responsibilities, the changes in the schedule, the tension, the nervousness of the day of a date, and how will that affect me? To try to think about those things. Does that mean that we always have the solutions? Of course not. Halavai, that would be nice. But even just thinking it through before, what the challenges might be, it helps you even if you don't have the solutions. Because it means that when the issues come, you're not shocked by them. And you were expecting them. And it puts you in a position to be able to better deal with whatever the challenges are. And that could lead to tremendous hatzlacha. Tremendous hatzlacha. So we went away for Shabbos, this Shabbos, a beautiful, 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 precious Shabbos. And this is something that for me, like, I was brought up this way, that this is what we do. I spent time on Friday morning thinking about Shabbos. I wasn't thinking about what I was going to say when I speak. I already knew what I was going to say. I was just thinking about Shabbos. And then I wasn't thinking about the logistics, as Shimon and I are going through the logistics of how to set up the tables and how to do the shiur. No, that we were dealing with the yeshiva. I was thinking about, to be honest, I was thinking about myself and my wife. Like, how's this Shabbos going to go? Am I going to have time to learn? Probably a limited amount of time to learn. So what will I learn? What do I need to get done? Yantif is coming. I have certain responsibilities. How can I set myself up for success? What about growing on the Shabbos, or being able to have a little menucha on the Shabbos, to open myself up to being able to connect with guys? It's not I'm naturally an introvert, so to be open, to be turned on the whole Shabbos, to be connecting with guys is something I had to speak to myself about before. because I'm not, for me, when I go back to my room at night or I go home at night, I have to kind of recover from a day of interacting with people. Some people, they thrive from a day of interacting with people. That's where they get their energy from. That's an extrovert. Introverts, they need to recover after they spend a lot of time with people. And as much as I interact with people all day, but be'etzem, so then I need to recover from that. So what do you do in a Shabbos, where the whole Shabbos is interacting? What do? You think about it before. You find time for yourself. You think about your mindset. You think about what the goal is, what you want to accomplish over such a Shabbos. And for a person heading into Bein Hazmanim, and this is not limited, this is not a Rebbe speaking to Talmidim about how to do Bein Hazmanim. I'm telling you something, one Jew to another, that's relevant for the rest of your life. When you're making, my wife made a cheshbon this morning, that's the 21st time that we made Pesach. We're married for over 30 years, but it's the 21st time that we made Pesach. We're still, I know, my wife and I'm waiting for the weather to get a little nicer, but at some point in the next few days, we're going to go on a long walk, and we're going to talk through Pesach. And when I say, let's talk through Pesach, she's not going to say, what? She's going to know exactly what I mean. We'll talk through who are we having the first days, and what are we doing Chol Hamoed, who are we having the second days, and when are we going to find space for ourselves, and how are we going to deal with if this challenging company, or even if it's the company that we love the most, but it gets very hectic, and we don't want to have our nerves frayed. So what can we do to maintain? How can we be mechazek each other? What does she think she's going to need from me? What do I think I'm going to need from her? That's a normal thing, and it's uncommon. But doesn't it sound like the most normal thing to do? That's a normal thing to do, to think. A bardas thinks beforehand. The reason why a bardas thinks beforehand is because the alternative is going on instinct. And instincts sometimes work and sometimes don't work. And sometimes our instincts get us into a lot of trouble. Because instinctively sometimes we're babies. Do you know what I mean by that? Like instinctively we worry about our egos. Instinctively we don't want to be insulted. Instinctively we need our comfort and our space. Instinctively it's about us. Because there's a part of us that's babies. But when we spend time thinking beforehand, we could transcend our childishness. And we could think about the other people in our lives and our responsibility to give and how we could share ourselves with others and even for ourselves, how we can grow and how we could even have a better time. You'll have a more fun Bein Hazmanim if you spend time before. So what we're doing now is the beginning of it. But the continuation of it is each one of you on your own. Those of you that are married could spend some time on your own and some time with your wives, talking through the yontif. For those of you that are married, maybe this is even more poignant to think about that. The Leil HaSeder itself. The Leil HaSeder itself, like. Is your wife expecting? Is she going to be able to stay up? Are you going to a Seder that's very long? How is she going to handle the Shiurim? Does she want to be able... Are you by a Seder where there are a lot of other people? And can you have some kind of a one-on-one conversation about Yetzias Mitzrayim and so on, despite the broadness of the Seder? Things like that. Maybe she hates Magid. Maybe you married a girl that hates Magid. It goes on forever. And you want to teach her that, no, that's the best part of the Seder. Let me reframe that for you. Maybe that's the way it is. Maybe she loves it and you hate it. So maybe you could learn from her. There's a lot that could happen, but the point is, the nekuda is to do this and take this nekait klal zeh biyadcha for the rest of your life. Nekait klal zeh biyadcha. Think about it before. Make a plan before. What are we doing? How are we going into this? Let's think about it before. There are people in this room that do that instinctively, but most people don't do that. Most people, the summer comes, they land it in the summer. I'm not talking about if I'm going to get an internship or a job. Yeah, that we're thinking about. I'm talking about me. How am I going to grow? How am I going to handle things? What am I going to do when challenges come up? And unfortunately, one of the biggest challenges of all of these types of breaks and everything, of course, is our exposure to technology. And it does need to be discussed. But I shudder to think about the fact that for many guys, that's the whole pre-Bein Hazmanim conversation. That's what it is. And it's really so much bigger than that. And it's so much more dignified and so much grander than that. You're a person. You're complex. You worked hard during this Zman. You accomplished things. Maybe for some of us there were also disappointments this Zman. Bein Hazmanim is a time that I can do something. I can accomplish something. It's not going to be perfect, but I'm not going to get anywhere if I just go with my instincts without thinking beforehand. So let's think beforehand. One of the hard things when guys go home for Yantif, especially guys like you that are working so hard, that even when you're on half power, you're working hard because you have very, 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 intense schedules. Many of you are busy from morning until late at night, like very, very busy. And one of the challenges that when you get home, you're kind of focused, you're thinking like you want to let go. It's been hard work and now I want to be on vacation. I want to let go. And letting go sometimes means letting go even of things that I've accomplished, like davening with a minyan, or even just looking after myself a certain way, taking care of myself. Sometimes letting go means more than it should mean. And the problem is that our parents, our siblings, our families, sometimes grandparents even, this is our chance to spend time with them. And it's not just that. Some of us have family that aren't super, super, super thrilled that we're spending so much time learning. Some of us have family that feel like we'd be doing. I spoke to a bacher a few days ago over the phone, whose family is like a little critical. They wish he would just get on with his life and do something important. Like, why is he learning so much? And when you go home, Bein Hazmanim, this is a moment, a meeting moment, Mayed, right? It's a meeting moment where it's not just a meeting of people, but it's a meeting of expectations. And your parents are waiting for the help. I'll tell you, I'm a parent of Bachram. Okay, my son is landing in a few hours in Newark, Baruch Hashem. And for the last few days, Dova, you could imagine this. For the last few days, we're like, we need to do this. Okay, Shalari is coming home. Okay, we need to do this. Okay, Shalari. You can imagine that, right? Going on in the house. These light bulbs need to be changed. This fixture needs to be redone. This door needs to be fixed. Whatever's going on, he's the magician in the house, We're waiting for him to come home. He's going to come home. He's a great kid, so he's not going to do this. In fact, he's going to be running the house 10 seconds in. But, some guys come home and they're like, first, I need to sleep for a week. Wake me up in a week. You have a list of things for me to do. Do you know I've been working hard the whole Zman? There's a clash there. I always compare it to someone pointed this out to me when I was very young, and it's such a smart thing. You know that there's this unfortunate minig in the Orthodox Jewish community in New York of going to bungalow colonies in the summer. The unfortunate part of the minig is not that people go to bungalow colonies, that's wonderful. It's that the husbands stay behind from Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, and families are apart from each other. It's not always the healthiest thing. And those that it is the healthiest thing means it's not such a healthy family. So either way you lose. So the husband is away the whole week. And hopefully for the Erlicha husband who's living his life the way he should, he's home without his wife, he's lonely, he's fending for himself, he's eating cereal for supper, he's going out to eat, whatever, grabbing things, fast food. He's getting up in the morning, davening, learning, work, coming home, work, 10 things his wife told him he has to bring to the country with him, he better not forget. He's doing that the whole week. Some of you know that life. And then on Friday he gets home, and his wife, in the meantime, is in the country. Okay, back in the day it was a small mouse-infested bungalow. Nowadays people have houses in the country too. So she's in her house in the country, it could be. But either way, even if she's in her house, she's all alone. She doesn't have her husband. Usually he does bedtime. Usually he does baths. Usually he takes out the garbage. She usually has that companionship, that he's there. And it's true nowadays with technology, we're kind of always connected. But we're always connected and we're not connected at all. You know what I mean? And she's waiting the whole week for her husband to come home. And to just be able to say, could you take this kid? That one kid that seems to like be an appendage on her hip because she can't put him down. And she's taking care of him the whole week, and he's crying. He's waking up in the middle of the night, and he wakes up multiple times in the middle of the night, and she can't ask her husband to do it a single time. And he's sleeping peacefully at home in his empty house without any kids there. So she's like jealous of him and waiting for him to come home to save her. And he's jealous of her. She's sitting by the pool. She's in the country. She doesn't have to work. She goes walking with her friends. She's living it up. And he's in the hot city working hard. You see what's coming, right? Thursday night or Friday afternoon, he comes back and she like shoves the laundry basket into his hands. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to play pickleball. And there's boom, World War III, because of the meeting, not of two people, but of two expectations. Wouldn't it be smart if on Thursday, while he's driving to the country, he picked up the phone and said to his beloved wife, we have a meeting of expectations about to happen, and it might not go well. Let's talk about it. I'm feeling worn out from the week, and I know you are also. How can we do this weekend right? Could you imagine? He comes in, she's like, "Can you help me for a couple of hours? I know you need to you'll go play pickleball and go swimming and so on and so forth soon. Help me with bedtime, and then you'll go out, whatever." And suddenly there's shalom bayis happening, and there's interacting happening. Thinking is important. When you get home, Bein Hazmanim, there's a clash of expectations. My son is coming home. My pride, my nachas. And for some people, it's, what's he been doing the whole zman? What's he been doing with himself? What kind of a man is he turning into? And when he comes home and he's just like, I'm going to sleep, don't wake me up. It doesn't give that aura of the godless, of the dignity of a Ben Torah. On the other hand, guys are coming home, you are worn out. You are exhausted. And it's something that you need to think about, how to balance that. Those of you that have wonderful relationships with your parents, and many of you do, it's something even to talk about. I'm coming home, I'm going to be chilling out a little, but what do you need? To have the same thing like a husband and wife could have that conversation. Guys could have that conversation with their parents when it's appropriate to do that, and when it doesn't work, when the parents are not the type, or it's not that type of personality or environment to do that, to make a plan yourself. What am I doing? But it's important to present yourself. Even how you dress and how you take care of yourself. I know it's your own house. I know you're going into the bedroom you grew up in, perhaps, some of us, but it's not, there are people there that are reactive to how you carry yourself. Carry yourself with dignity. Be put together. Clean up after yourself. And so on. The other thing when guys go home Bein Hazmanim is the relationship part, and this is hard. This is not always easy. Okay, so I'm going to start with the easy part of that part, but then I'm going to get to the hard part, and that's like this. The opportunity here when you get home Bein Hazmanim is to lean into the relationships with people in your family that you're not able to focus in on the same way. Some of you have parents that maybe you were closer to when you were younger. Some of you have parents that don't do such a great job just because of their personality, not a taina, or your personality of keeping that connection while you're away, even if you have phones, even if you're FaceTiming. It's just hard to do that. And Bein Hazmanim is an opportunity to spend time with your father again, and to do stuff with him that he likes to do, and to talk to him. So don't feel like if he's sitting by the table eating something and you're sitting there, don't busy yourself. This is an opportunity. It's very important to know this. And this is something, I'm not saying this to you as musar. I'm saying this to you that this is an opportunity. There's nobody, as life goes on, and we get older and our parents get older, there's nobody that regrets that they maintained a good relationship with their parents. Nobody regrets that. But the other way, there are a lot of people that regret. So your mother is in the kitchen cooking, or she's doing something, and you could just go in and say, "Could I help?" Or just schmooze while she's doing it. That schmoozing is not wasting time. Don't get on your phone. Don't say, "What am I doing? I'm wasting my time here." You're not wasting your time when you spend time schmoozing with your parents. This is the moments. This is the connection time. We are too busy, aren't we? We're too busy. We get home, Bein Hazmanim, you come home from davening, you're eating breakfast, your mother's in the kitchen, or your father's around, it's a Sunday, he's sitting by the table, he's reading a paper, or he's doing something. Sit down, schmooze, have a coffee with him, take a walk. Those things are important parts of Kibbud Avayim. And they're important parts of creating a relationship that's only healthy and beneficial for you moving forward. Okay, unfortunately, not everyone has the healthiest family situation. But to the extent that we could do this, to the extent that we have parents in our lives that we can reach out to, even if they're very different than us, even if they have different values than us sometimes, even if they sometimes are critical of us. But if we could lean into that and try to connect with them, that's an accomplishment over Bein Hazmanim. I think a lot of guys look at it as one of the nuisances of Bein Hazmanim. But it's not. It's an accomplishment of Bein Hazmanim that I re-sparked and I furthered my relationship. Also, sometimes guys leave their relationships childish with their parents. They never develop a certain maturity in the relationship. You're coming back as an adult. You come back and have adult conversations with them and ask them how things are going by them and what's doing at work and how are things going. It could be a very valuable thing. And by the way, it's not just true about parents. It's true about siblings as well. This is an opportunity to reconnect with siblings. You have a sister at home. How much time have you spoken to her? How much time, you know what's going on by her? Maybe your sister is in 10th grade and there's maybe 0% similar interests or worlds, b'chlal, because a 10th grade girl is just wrapped up completely in her own life and her own drama and whatever's going on. But you're her big brother. Schmooze with her. Ask her what's happening. How's she doing with her friends? How's she doing in school? Listen to her go on and on and on about her teacher that she can't stand, or about her tests that are too hard, or about school which is boring, or whatever it is. This is an opportunity. These are relationships that are for life, and they're worth it. And one day she won't be in 10th grade. One day she'll be married with a few kids and a reliable sister that you could have a connection with, and her husband will be a reliable brother that you could have a connection with. This is an opportunity to be machazik that connection. Rabbi say that's the easy part of the relationship part. But there's a much harder part. And when I say this, I hope I'm not speaking to everyone. But I know for sure I'm speaking to many people when I say this. Families have difficulties. Some families have shalom bayis difficulties. Some families have a parent that's anxious or depressed. Some families have massive parnasa difficulties, and they're stressed because of that. Some families have stress because other siblings aren't doing well. They're going through a divorce, or they're not well, or something, and parents are occupied, or the family is occupied with that. And when you go to yeshiva, it's a welcome break from the harsh realities of some of the difficult stuff that's going on at home. Maybe your friends in yeshiva, even your rabbeim, might not know those difficulties. Maybe there are things that you can't say, or you're not willing to say, or not comfortable saying. But there's stuff going on at home, and one of the things that happens when guys go home is that they get hit again with the depth of the difficulties that are going on in their homes, and that can be very overwhelming and difficult. Like, in a certain sense, like you forgot about that, how hard that was. You forgot about that depression. You forgot about that illness. You forgot about that tension, and so on. And that's an overwhelming thing to come home to. I wish I had a solution for that was just like, well, here's what you do, A, B, and C. Of course, I don't have a solution for that, but I think just being aware of it before and knowing that that's going to happen could help you prepare for it, to try to be as compassionate as possible, and at the same time to try not to get swallowed up by it. That it shouldn't wrap you completely. It's interesting, the balance to not care and to not be affected and to shut our hearts down. I was talking to a woman on the phone yesterday, and she said, maybe I should deal with this the way I deal with most things, which is to lock it into a box and throw away the key. No. First of all, it's impossible. She thinks it's possible. It's not possible. And second of all, no, that's not. We have feelings for a reason, and we're mishtatif, and we're noiseh ba'olam chaveroi, and we participate in our family's difficulties, and we're part of our families, and it's something that we lean into. But it's also not selfless to become so full of despair and so full of pain that we lose our own lives. Chayecha koidmin, you have to be Chayecha koidmin is not a selfishness thing. When it says Chayecha koidmin, your life comes first, it's not because we're selfish. It's because the only way that we have the capacity to be there for the people around us is if we take care of ourselves. You know, like on the airplane when it says to put the mask on yourself before you put it on other people, you know why it says that? It's not because the airplane industry is not paskening Chayecha koidmin. They don't care. It's because you're not going to get the mask on the other one if then both people die. It's because in order for you to be functioning on optimum level, you need to be safe. Then you could function. And that's true emotionally also. So this is hard. It's so hard that it's hard for me to even say. Is that some of us are going home to situations that are difficult. And when you're going home to a situation that's difficult, there's a nisayon and a avoda of participating and connecting with it, but not getting lost in it, and being able to still do my thing. Maybe, and this is a major accomplishment of thinking things through before. How am I handling that? What am I going home to? How many guys walk through the door and they're like, oh, right. Not that they really forgot, but just like if you're not thinking about it, then it just like hits you. Think about it before. How are you handling this? And even if you don't have, again, like I wish we could just say, here are the things, an easy 1, 2, 3, and this is how you deal with it. Obviously, it's not that way, but just having thought about it before already is a major thing. Guys that work very, very hard during Hazman, a lot of times there's like a boomerang effect where they feel like they can't do anything Bein Hazmanim. It's very, very, very hard to motivate themselves to do stuff Bein Hazmanim. And when guys don't do anything Bein Hazmanim, it's usually pretty destructive. So we need to be able to balance that and to be able to accomplish. I want to encourage everyone to not go into a Bein Hazmanim that's just going to be filled with guilt, filled with I really should. There are people in this room who are going into Bein Hazmanim thinking of I really should learn 6 hours a day. And you're not going to. And you're not going to partially because Bein Hazmanim is very, very busy. And how many things have you pushed off to when you get home? And how many things do you have to take care of? And your families have expectations and so on and so forth. And it's hard to do a lot. But sometimes it's also emotionally. You're pushing yourself. We know those last few days before Bein Hazmanim on some level, I don't know how much the Rosh Hashiva understands this because I get the feeling that he's just totally immersed in Talmud Torah 24 hours a day, 364 days a week, because not Tisha B'Av, of course, except that he learns in his family before they eat on Matzah Tisha B'Av, as he announced on Shabbos. So I don't know how comfortable I'd be saying this to him, but and Baruch Hashem, we're fortunate to have a Rosh Hashiva that we have that dugma of, and we should all be zeicha to be able to be that way. But for today, I think we also have to accept our humanity, and I'm sure he would be okay with me saying that. We have to accept he even said did you hear him say on Shabbos that guys should sleep? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That was a little surprising, no? Usually we hear a shvuz about how we should not sleep. It was interesting. I found it very interesting. But I even brought it up to him yesterday. But he said that not everyone is able to go without sleep. He said that. What? Yeah. It was on Shabbos. Unfortunately, we can't actually, So, but in any event, some of us are going through the last days of the Zman running on fumes, and you're pushing yourselves. There are guys in my shir, and those of you that are in other shirim as well, that they're pushing themselves every day to come to shir, and I see that it's not easy. It's hard. And midterms are coming up, and it's not easy. Bein Hazmanim comes a lot of times, like the parts of us that were like pushing themselves and squeezing themselves to do the job until break. When the break comes, they're like, boom, they like it forces that break, and it makes it hard to motivate ourselves to do. Be aware that that is part of your personality. Don't make massive expectations. What ends up happening is like this. You come home, let's say you get home. I'm not sure what the plan is here, by the way. I'm not sure what the story is. I think the first day of officially of break is Thursday, okay, of next week. Okay? Which is a full week longer than any yeshiva in the world. Kamat. Chaim Berlin goes a little bit into Nisan also. But... so next Thursday, I'm not sure what the story is. I'm not sure if Wednesday. I'm not sure if the mashgiach will give a shmooze on Wednesday. I'm not sure how next week is going to work out exactly. But let's assume the first day you're home is Thursday. Let's assume you went home on Wednesday. Okay, so you wake up Thursday morning in your own bed. Okay, and you told yourself that you're going to go to a 8:00 shacharis, and then you were going to learn for 2 or 3 hours. And then you were going to start taking your errands for Yantif. You had a plan. And your plan to wake up for 8:00 Shacharis quickly has a quick demise because you wake up at 9:00. Okay, because you're very tired, because you just got home, because it was a late night, because you're whatever, because your sibling just came home from Israel, because whatever it was, because you were up late with your family, because whatever it is, you're back home, because traveling the day before. So you go to shul, and then you're like, okay, I'm not going to start learning right now. I didn't even unpack yet. So you go home, and that day is over. You're gone. It's like, that sinking feeling. Do you have that sinking feeling, like 6, 7 p.m., where you're like, oh no, I think the day is almost over. Like, I had big plans for today. And then it comes to the end of the day, and you're like, okay, tomorrow is going to be the beginning of my Bein Hazmanim. But tomorrow's Friday. I mean, think about it. It is Friday. I'm not going to get that much done. I have to get ready for it. So Sunday. But the kids are, by the time you're really ready to start your Bein Hazmanim, it's Erev Pesach, and then it's Erev Pesach. And then it's Yantif, and Yantif throws us off completely. And then Chol Hamoed, of course, completely thrown off. By the time your whole big plan of everything you're going to do Bein Hazmanim, you're ready to implement it after Yantif, but then we're coming back already. So it just doesn't happen. Does this story sound familiar to anybody besides for me in this room? This is the story, right? So I want to just tell you the klalim that help you overcome this. First of all, the things that you're being mechayev yourself to do, you have to have in your mind a absolute necessity, and if I'm able to. There needs to be 2 categories in your mind. So, absolute necessity, I need to do X amount of learning, Chazara, Pesach, whatever it is. This is an X thing. I want to do Minyanim, whatever you decide, each person, kafim, where they're up to decide what my absolute thing is. But don't just leave it with that, and then the rest of the time I'm not doing anything. If I really would like to do, and have another thing, I would call it a plan A and plan B, but it's not really plan A and plan B. It's really vital and almost vital. Vital and secondary importance. Okay? And it could be the secondary importance won't happen. It could be it won't. But it's much more likely to happen if you're doing the vital. Because then it's always easy to continue something than to start something. Do you hear what I'm saying? So what you need to do is you need to have that, and you need to start, be meiser nefesh for what's vital. The minute you arrive home, you're in that schedule. Okay? You cannot say, okay, I know it's Bein Hazmanim. I said I was going to do this Bein Hazmanim, but today is only the first day. If you do that, you are saying goodbye to your Bein Hazmanim plan. Okay? Bein Hazmanim is not that long. In this yeshiva, it's really not that long. Okay? It's over before it starts. I give the same shmooze, some of you might remember. I give the same shmooze before the summer, even though that's longer. It just doesn't, there's no day that you're like, oh, today is a great day. Whatever it is, you're going to be exhausted, you're going to be disoriented, you're going to feel overwhelmed. The vital things that you want to do, your meiser nefesh to do from day one, make them short, make them doable, and don't miss a day. And then you'll be very, very successful Bein Hazmanim, because Seder Bein Hazmanim is very, very important, but you have to understand what Seder means. Because if you're setting up a schedule, a ganze schedule Bein Hazmanim, it's not, for most mortal human beings, I don't want to say for everyone, but for most mortal human beings, it's not going to work. And once you set up too big of a schedule and it doesn't work, there's no schedule at all. So set up the basic structure that has to work. Keep it simple. Allow spaces, allow gaps, allow flexibility, and you'll see hatzlacha. I've seen it, with my own children, with myself, with other people. I've seen it done right, and I've seen it done wrong. And I'm telling you, this is a key thing. I told you this last year also, before Bein Hazmanim, and it's very, very important. And that is to try to the best of your ability to daven in one place. Not only to daven in one place, but to daven in one place in that place. To try to have a seat. Many of us don't have seats anymore by the time we go home because we spend so much time away from home. Try to find a makom, if you can, a place that you daven in. It's not totally, maybe you'll have a difference between weekday and Yontif. Maybe you have a place your family goes on Yontif, but during the week you go here. I'm not saying this has to be absolute, but a certain sense of this is my makom is very important. You see in yeshiva the difference. Those of us that have a clear makom to learn in and to daven in, it's just more successful than if we're always looking over our shoulder and trying to figure out where to sit. It just doesn't, it's not the same kviyas. Kol hakoveya makom l'tfilasei, Chazal say, Elokei Avram be'ezrei. There's something to being koveya makom l'tfilasei, and I would add that it's true for learning as well. I'm not applying Chazal to learning. Chazal is very meduyak, but the concept is true for learning also, to have your place. You don't go to a different place every day, unless that's your specific Bein Hazmanim chill, but don't randomly go to a different place every day. Go to, have your place that you learn and your place that you daven. I think it's important, if possible, for guys to daven with their fathers, if it's possible. Not always possible, and not every father values it, and so on. So you have to know your own situation, but otherwise, just try to have a makom and a place where you daven. It just feels different. I see it. I'm the Rav of a shul. I see the bachrim that come in. Like there's one bachar in particular that he must be in 11th grade or something. A young kid. Okay, comes to my shul Bein Hazmanim, and his father is like in and out in the shul. His father doesn't even daven in the shul all the time. But Bein Hazmanim, he davens in the shul. Not only does he daven in the shul, he davens in a specific seat. And not only does he daven in a specific seat, but he comes to every single shir over Bein Hazmanim. It's like his thing. Like I'm his Rebbe, Bein Hazmanim. That kind of thing. And we've developed a beautiful relationship because of that. He doesn't learn here. He doesn't learn in the Waterbury Yeshiva either. But it's like a Bein Hazmanim relationship. And he has a makom, and he has a place, and he asks me questions on the shiurim afterwards. He made it his kviyas. Good for him. Good for him. He has a geschmack. Bein Hazmanim. He's not there yom v'layla, but when he's there, he's there. It's very nice. And even by off Shabbasim, he does that. It's very nice. And you'll find it in Milo also. And by the way, on that note, if there's a Rav of your shul, when you come back Bein Hazmanim and you walk into your shul, you go over to the Rav and say, Shalom Aleichem, I'm back at Bein Hazmanim, and you say something. The Rav is not the plumber. Okay, he's the Rav in the shul, and I would like to think that you're in shuls where the Rav in the shul cares that you're back. And it's meaningful to him. So go over, introduce yourself, but you'll feel more grounded and welcome and at home, knowing that you went in and you said hi, you connected with the Rav, you spoke to him. And it'll lend itself to other conversations that could be very, very important as well. Rabbi say, I feel like I barely scratched the surface right now, but it's at least a start for Plans Bein Hazmanim. We did not talk about technology, which I started with. I don't know if we need to, worry about technology. I don't know if we need to. It's a pretty obvious challenge. But we didn't talk specifically about, I think there was one time that we had to share specifically on Yontif meals and dealing with different kinds of relatives and things by Yontif meals. But I think for today, I think it's at least a good hakdama to getting ready for Bein Hazmanim. And hopefully, I don't know how many of you will still be here. I don't know what the plan is, but hopefully we'll continue next Tuesday, Be'ezer Hashem.